what's really fun about this is it also provides an opportunity to connect or reconnect with people that you know already. I mean, how many times have we received like an email, sort of this mass email? Anybody, if anyone knows, for a director of development, here's this role I'm hiring for, which usually goes to like, okay, quickly breeze through. I didn't really give a lot of thought to that. And then it sort of goes into, another fold, a spam folder or something like that. But if we approach this as, I mean, we're coming into sort of year 3 of a global pandemic. People have not been connecting in the same way that they used to maybe 3 years ago when we'd go into physical office where we'd, have our bagel here, go to coffee, see the sort of the rhythms. That all of that's changed, and this is really an opportunity to reconnect with people that you might not have seen for a while, might not have had coffee for, to find out like, how are you doing in life? What's going on? And so using like a search as an excuse to reconnect with colleagues, which I really love when it comes to the standpoint of this concept of dormant ties. Often, dormant ties are, I first learned about it when you used to work with someone and then you go separate. Someone leaves the company and then sort of 2 or 3, 4 years later, you come back together and your worlds have evolved and your networks have evolved in different ways that might not be what they were when maybe you worked together for 10 years. And so this really illustrates, 2 to 5 years ago, you might be the pink circle on the left and I might be the white circle on or gray circle on the right. Our networks, for the most part, they overlapped pretty solidly, and so we knew a lot of the same people. And so it might not have been great to be like, hey, Katrina, I'm looking for this role. And you're like, here are 3 people. And we're like, yep, I know all 3 of these people. I've already reached out to them. Well, or here's somebody. Here's a person you didn't know. But now, over the 2 to 5 years, or think about like the 3 years that we've been in a global pandemic, people's lives and work and connection to like communities have changed and shifted. And now, like today, the Venn diagram on the right, if people have left roles or moved to different cities or whatever it might be, like it's not that you haven't been making connections, you've been making different connections. And so now our networks are like pretty different. We still know this one person that maybe we stay in contact with from our old job, but we met people we volunteered in places, we've moved to different towns, we've moved to different organizations, and so it's a much richer network. And so using this as an excuse to connect with colleagues, I love the exercise of just going through your connections on LinkedIn. Just scroll through all of your LinkedIn connections, thinking about the KSAs and anchors of the role, thinking about the things in the empathy map that you outlined, Katrina, and then where might these people be found, and thinking like, would this person, might this person know people in these quadrants, and then connect with them in a way that's like, hey, we haven't talked for a little while. I've got this search, but would love to connect, and then find out what's going on in people's lives. So it's less of a chore and more of a kind of a fun thing to like reconnect with people that you might not have talked to for a number of years. And why I think this is kind of also really important and exciting is that in most searches, we find like it's the second and third ring. If we consider like my network is, sort of the first circle. But like, then I connect with Katrina and then it becomes, there's a second circle there, sort of, it's the 6 degrees of, Kevin Bacon type of thing, where it's like, there's 1 step removed, there's 2 steps removed. Like a lot of the candidates who'll be really, who we found who make really solid candidates in searches are in the second ring, and some in the third ring, but like people who know the organization or who know you. And it takes like reconnecting with people, letting the search marinate long enough so that it has time to get through these networks, is really important, but also yields to some really interesting potential candidates. And also, what we find is that people hear about it or learn about their role from multiple different people. As you let things marinate in the market, if you will, people they might see the posting, but then they might have a friend who's like, "Hey, have you seen this thing?" Or it might come back again. And I always think about Ramit Sethi's quote, "We are but a moment in their day." Oftentimes when I used to do searches, I would just post the job and then like wait 2 weeks and see what happened. And for those on active on social media or have turned on the TV, like there's so much stuff going on, and that people might have missed the day that you posted it. And so thinking about like, how do you turn this into a marketing campaign to connect this role with the people who might be interested in it and have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and don't fire hose someone's feed or inbox, but recognize like people might miss it. And so like, how do you have different ways? How can you include videos? How can you include like quote slides or different collateral to connect in a way that resonates for people in any of those places where they might volunteer, where they might work, in your networks to continue to like show and illustrate the different aspects of the role. And so maybe it resonates differently with people, even if they've seen your stuff multiple times. So I think, Katrina, to your prompt, taking some time to go through your LinkedIn profile connections, to if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, to go through your connections, see who's following you. And then think about like, might they benefit from a one-on-one connection? Sending an email, not the sort of the mass email where everyone's BCC'd or not BCC'd, because those are then it becomes a personal connection. I'm emailing you. I'm not emailing you and 500 other people. And it becomes something else, and really using this as an opportunity, this job search, this position search, as an opportunity to really deepen our connections as human beings, through the excuse of we have this job search. And so I really find your prompt with the empathy map like a really key linchpin in order to connect pieces that typically wouldn't be surfaced. So I think there's some richness in that exercise, and then you can see how it ties from that initial knowledge, skills, and abilities to the sourcing schematic stuff that we've been talking about, and how it all comes together. And really, as we found, like it becomes something else other than a job search. Yeah, what's your as we land the plane, Katrina, what are your closing thoughts on this one for now?
Yeah, I think it's the kind of holistic way of thinking about the search that you're doing, right? It's knowledge, skills, and abilities help us to think about, those like tactical, practical things that people need to know to be successful in the role. But the empathy map really helps us to think about those folks as humans and all of the different ways that they might be building richness that is super fitting or super appropriate for doing the work that the position is all about, or being in the world, or walking with the communities that the work is doing, as evidenced by the full picture of people's lives. And so really we're sort of looking at not about bombarding all of those spaces, but about being kind of attuned to all of the ways that people might get messages or might be inspired or intrigued to explore an opportunity. And we tend to, in sort of dusty old search, right, we tend to look for that like closest point between two lines. But this is actually, using that map or that network metaphor, this is really about kind of spreading those messages out and really kind of having multiple touch points and ways to explore and having those be where people need them or where they're already looking. I think that's the key.
Yeah, totally. Thanks to everyone for joining us for this exploration of empathy mapping and really diving deep into the sort of how of sourcing. And Katrina, as always, thanks for joining me for the video.
So fun. Thanks, Tim. Good luck, everyone.